If you were raised by a narcissistic mother, you know just how complicated that relationship has been for your entire life. Living with a narcissist is a special kind of torture, particularly a narcissistic parent. You might think that you'd be happy when she died, but just like your relationship with her was, the feelings you'll experience when she dies are, well, complicated. What to expect when your narcissistic mother dies? You'll experience a range of emotions. Your relationship with her was complicated and full of emotional abuse, so it's no wonder her death will cause many different feelings. You might have wished her dead on many occasions. As Quora user Princess BB says of her narcissistic mother, "I used to hope and pray she got hit by a car on her way home and died so that I didn't have to feel inadequate anymore." When she actually dies, however, while you may experience relief because the abuse is over, you will struggle with it more than you think. You'll also struggle with the many other intense emotions that will rise up over time. What you might be surprised to feel is intense sadness. You might expect to be relieved, and you might also think that you'll be happy once she's gone. But for good or bad, this was your mother. Her death will likely make you sad for many different reasons. You might be sad because you never expressed the pain she caused you, or you might be sad because she didn't know how to love. You might feel compassion for her own tortured life, and you might feel compassion for yours as well. It's also not unusual to feel intense anger. She hurt you for so long, and now she's left you with the scars. She wasn't a good parent, and that's not fair. But her death doesn't change any of that, and it won't give you the satisfaction you think it will. You'll also feel pressure from the cultural norms you've been taught to expect when a parent dies. The emotions you feel will likely differ from what you've learned is proper, and that can cause you even more grief as you struggle to accept your own complicated feelings. When will these emotions come? Another frustrating part of grieving the death of an abusive parent is that the emotions you'll experience will emerge at a moment's notice. You may be going along just fine, but then something will happen that triggers a memory or an intense feeling. These feelings will hit you harder than you think or are expecting, and they will do so for some time following her death. As psychologist Dr. Liz Bonet notes, grief peaks at about 2 years after the death. You'll experience cycles of intense emotions over a long period of time. There will be some lulls, and you'll think you're finally getting over it. But then, a holiday rolls around or some other experience triggers a memory, and you're once again awash with grief, anger, or sadness. It's normal to think there's something wrong with you, but that's not true. You're going through a normal grief process that can be intensified by the nature of the relationship you had with your narcissistic mother. It's particularly painful if you've yet to really process the abuse she heaped upon you. Part of you will be very angry at her for dying before you could tell her how you feel, and it's also common to feel stuck because of that. You might think you'll never get over this, but give yourself time. When you lose a parent, even an abusive one, there's a part of you that feels disanchored or detached because one of the people who created you is gone. It doesn't matter if they abused you, you feel a sense of loss, and it's hard to process that with the mix of other emotions. How long will it take to move on? As mentioned earlier, grief typically peaks at around 2 years after the death has occurred. But that doesn't mean you will be healed and ready to move on at that point. It's hard to say exactly how long it will take to move on. Much depends on the nature of your specific relationship with your mother and the damage her abuse has caused. Each person feels the effects of narcissistic abuse differently. One person may be able to process these difficult emotions in a few years, while others may continue to struggle for many years to come. What's important is not to put a time limit on it or have fixed expectations. Instead, practice being gentle with yourself. Another important practice is acceptance. Accept the feelings you have no matter what they are, without judgment. When you get to the point where you can let go of the self-judgment and shame that resulted from the narcissistic abuse you endured, that's when the healing really begins to take effect. Shame is one of the most damaging emotions humans have, and it's part of what causes narcissism in the first place. The narcissist then passes that on to their children, who carry it often for the rest of their lives. Letting go of that destructive and useless emotion is key to truly healing from the abuse your toxic mother heaped on you throughout your childhood. What comes after? When you are finally able to lay the specter of your abusive, narcissistic mother to rest, that's when you can truly fill your life with love. You really can't love other people properly until you can learn to love yourself. You have to be able to accept every part of yourself, even the selfish, needy, and yes, narcissistic parts. Once you're able to accept what you consider to be the worst parts of yourself, the parts therapists call your shadow self, that's when you can recognize the gifts those shadows bring to you. You can understand that your selfish shadow self is looking out for your best interests. Your needy shadow self is reaching out for love and the care your mother never gave you. Each of these shadow selves is bringing you a skill that you once used to survive. You may have better skills now, but recognizing the value of the shadow self and learning to love those parts of you is vital for total self-acceptance. Self-acceptance is critical for learning to love yourself. When you do finally learn to love yourself, you are now ready to truly give love to other people. You can accept them even with their flaws. You can have compassion for their situation, and you can practice forgiveness even when they harm you. You also develop self-respect and refuse to allow anyone to continue to harm you. That doesn't mean you can't forgive them, but you won't let any more abuse into your life. Finally, narcissism is a toxic mental condition that results in generations of abuse and pain. Your narcissistic mother lived in constant fear with profound shame and self-loathing. Her tortured mind never knew how to love you. She only knew how to manipulate and abuse you. But you don't have to live with that for the rest of your life. No matter where you're at when she dies, you will experience mixed emotions. Let yourself feel them, explore them, and use them to heal. You've suffered enough, and it's time for you to find true love. And a hint? It's self-love. One of the first and most important things you can do when you begin your healing journey is to understand your emotional triggers. Your narcissistic mother likely created many of these, and she used them to manipulate and control you. It's critical to understand those triggers so that you can stop any future abuse from anyone in your life. A free copy of my 5-step roadmap to heal emotional triggers can help you do that so that you are the only one who controls your emotional responses. Just click on the link below this video and I'll send it directly to your inbox for free. Thanks for watching.